Hi, I'm Rebecca Robeson. Welcome back to Kenwoven. Today we're going to get started right away on episode 2 of our limited series called Some of the Worst Design Mistakes I've Ever Seen in My Career. So the first category we're going to look at today is scale. What do I mean by scale? Well, scale kind of crosses all borders, every aspect of interior design. And after you see all these before and after pictures, I think you're going to get the concept of scale and how important it is in an interior design project and in your home. The first one we have is a dining room. Now this is one that I did for my friend Catherine. She has a channel called Do It on a Dime, and I flew out to where she lives in North Carolina, and I helped her make over her dining room in just a couple of days. It was so much fun. But let's take a look. This is the wall that she had her piano on before. Now it's not that the piano is a bad scale, it's the artwork. Do you see how large a wall she has? A small vertical piece of art didn't make a statement. It didn't cover the wall. It didn't do anything for the wall. So what did we do? We bought 2 more pieces of art. We actually had pictures of her kids put in it, and it turned out beautiful. But look at those 3 frames that are lined up next to each other. It's still a vertical piece of art, but because we have repeated it over and over again, it creates a horizontal piece. That is a better scale for that wall. What would a scale mistake look like in a bedroom? Take a look at this photo. This is a project where, well, for one thing, there's no closet door. We don't have a category called put your closet door on, but this one didn't have one. But besides that, it's a pretty good sized room. It's a 9-foot ceiling, but you see how it's got one lamp over on one side and then a table lamp, a floor lamp and a table lamp, small bed, small nightstands in a relatively large and good sized bedroom. When I redid it and made it into a guest room, I scaled it up. Now you see that we have a beautiful queen size bed. By putting chairs at the end of the bed, we filled the space. A beautiful horizontal piece of art across the top of the headboard on the frame, and then 2 matching lamps. Even dropping a ceiling fan in the center brought all the walls all together so that when you walk in this room now, you feel like it's appropriate to the size of the room. Oh, and just so you know, yes, that is a new closet door. In this bedroom, it's a large bedroom. It's a good sized bedroom, I'd say, but the ceiling is high. This is a 13-foot ceiling, and the scale was off. Do you see it's a normal size headboard? That's not as much the problem. It's got a nightstand. I'm not even sure if there's matching nightstands. I think there are, but small lamps. How do you better scale a room that's that tall? Here's what you do. Put a texture on the back wall behind the bed by putting reclaimed wood all from the floor to the ceiling, wall to wall. It brought that space in and made it feel warm and welcoming and yummy. I also put in larger nightstands, and you'll see that I added 3 pendant lights in the ceiling. That now pulls even higher, that 13-foot ceiling. Those pendant lights drop down and they meet in front of that wood. They actually sit in front of those really tall oval mirrors. Now it feels like you walk in and you're fit for a queen. Even though it was a king-size bed. So we've talked about how furniture can be ill-scaled for a room. Here's another example in this bedroom. It actually has a vaulted ceiling. So the ceiling goes really, really high, and there's just not that much on that wall. 2, average pieces of art that don't really go together. There's no symmetry. This is not only a problem of scale for this room, but it's definitely a lack of symmetry, I can tell you that. And when I'm lying in my bed, I'd rather look over at this. a huge dresser. Now, it's shorter than the piece that was in there before, but it spans the wall from side to side further. And then what do we do on top of that? We did 4 pieces of art that go high above the television and create a beautiful look. Scale can also be addressed by adding beams in the ceiling. What does that do? That takes this room that feels like a cavern and starts to enter architectural elements into the room that makes it feel good and look good and tie the spaces in together. And then of course, at the foot of the bed, because it's such a big room and we're talking scale, there's room to do a sitting area. And above that, I dropped a chandelier. Again, pulling the ceiling down into the space. What about an entryway? In an entryway, you want to make a statement, and it depends on how big your entryway is. Now, when I look at this picture here, the piece of art is not necessarily the problem. It's a vertical space and it's a vertical piece of art. But the piece of furniture below it is just as I mean, this was a very, very nice house. That piece of furniture did not do it for this space. So here's what I did. I shopped and bought a larger piece of furniture. Instead of having that piece of art, I wanted to make it bold and beautiful. Look how tall those mirrors are. Are you understanding a little bit more about scale? How something like this can make a statement and be bold. Sometimes it's just about looking at your available space and scaling it. In this condo, scale was a huge issue. And the kitchen cabinet, you know, I love my kitchen cabinets to go to the ceiling, but if you got a 13-foot tall kitchen, you're not gonna take it to the ceiling. So what can you do to scale the space? I mean, if you had a 13-foot tall kitchen cabinet, you would definitely need a rolling ladder. The biggest issue I had here is that vent that goes over the cooktop. Now, if this had 8-foot ceiling and those cabinets went to the ceiling and that whole hood dropped down, that would have been probably a perfectly suitable hood. But because the stack on the hood had to go all the way up 13 feet, it needed to be more substantial. Look at that hood. That hood is massive. And that's what it needed. Now, it didn't hurt that I took the tile all the way up to the ceiling too, and the rest of the kitchen, I put brick around it. So you didn't get this sense of these low cabinets and this tall ceiling. But do you see the scale of that hood? Huge difference. Well, let's talk about some other scale areas. We've talked about art, we've talked about rooms, bedrooms, living rooms, dining rooms. What about something like this? What about a fireplace? A lot of builders would put in fireplaces that they only stuck into the room about this much, so they didn't look legit. You know, all the workings was in the wall, but they had this like fake look on the front. And they were just like this size, and then they had a mantle planted on top of it. That's also a big mistake. I see a lot of times people have their mantles in the wrong place, or too large a mantle, too beefy for what it is. In this room, in this living room, I walked in and there was so many things about this room that was wrong. Oh my gosh. First off, look on the right-hand side. There's a dining room with a dropped ceiling, and then kind of in the middle, there's a really tall, skinny window, but on the left-hand side, there's a dropped, short window. And then in the center, what should be the focal point, a wimpy fireplace. So here was my idea. Let's make that our focal point. Let's make that our backdrop for the whole room. Not only can you enjoy the fireplace, but when you walk in and you see what I have in mind, it is going to take your breath away because the scale will be right. Let me tell you the different scale things in this photo. Some of these go into other categories of mistakes that I see, but there was a huge correction that needed to be made here, and here's what I did. I took tile all the way on that vaulted ceiling, all the way up from wall to wall. I bumped it out maybe 18 inches from the left and right, and look how wide now and thick that actual fireplace part is. But by dropping that chandelier in the middle of the room, again, we brought the ceiling into the theater. But now look at the dining room on the right. With that soffited ceiling that was painted red being painted out white now, we no longer have that feeling of all these colors and all these things going on. And then look in the middle. There's that tall, weird window. But do you see what I did over on the left-hand side? I brought my window treatments all the way up to the same height as that window with a valance across the top, balancing the windows on the left and the window in the middle. And then of course we brought it on into the dining room. Look, this room is so tall. That's why I did 4 chairs that face each other, but they are high-backed, wing-backed chairs, modern wing-backed chairs. What's that do? The scale of the height of the furniture now goes so much better with the scale of the height of the room. Let's talk about another huge design mistake I've seen throughout my entire career as an interior designer, and I see it everywhere, and it's window treatments. When it comes to window treatments, what are the mistakes? Okay, in my opinion, now everybody has their own taste and your own style. You might be country. You might be Tommy Bahama, which I think this client must have been because everything in their beach house looked like Tommy Bahama had lived there at one time. The mistake on these window treatments here is that they're in a print fabric. Now, it looks like a large room, and it is kind of large this way. It's like, I think 19 feet this direction. That's a lot. But it's only 9 feet this direction. World's skinniest bedroom, can I say. So, what did I do? Of course, I took the window treatment rods to the ceiling, which I always do. I broke it up, but I used a solid fabric, and it made a much more peaceful look in this bedroom. Let's go back to my friend Catherine's house when I got there and I was working on her dining room. Look at the window treatments. The problem with the window treatments, well, the color for one, but she wanted that color, great. The problem is they're too wimpy. They're on a very inexpensive wimpy rod, and it's, hung right at the window. And then she bought only 1 panel per window. What I ended up doing was actually buying 4 panels per window. 2 on the right, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, 2 on the left. Doesn't that now look substantial and look quality? Trust me, we got Bed Bath & Beyond ready-made curtains and Bed Bath & Beyond ready-made rods and put that up ourselves. I like to use this particular picture of a condo. It was a retirement condo I did for a very dear friend and client of mine. And we have a video on it on YouTube. Anyway, her name was Rose. And this was her bedroom. And it had 1 window by itself. And then these little inexpensive rods, big mistake. And then guess what? That's the wall the bed would go on. So what about the other side? How many of you guys have that problem? I know it is everywhere, and I have tricks for what to do, and I'm gonna show you right now what we did. I redid the window treatments, but look at that. That looks amazing, but did you see that I added a window? No, I didn't. On the right-hand side, it's not a window. It's a mirror. And doesn't it give you the impression of a window? Haha, pretty smart idea, huh? You'll see here in this photo here, this is swags and jabots. Did you even know that such a thing existed? Now, let me just say, this is one of those times, because like I said earlier, I don't usually do a printed fabric on window treatments. I usually do solid. Here's where I did a printed fabric, but it was a geometric print that was repeated over and over. It was in that dark chocolate and the off-white color that was in the room. So it was just more of an impression than, navy blue with burgundy, hibiscus on it or something. And then of course we did stencil that same motif above the windows where the drywall was by itself. Let's go on to another category. Let's talk about cabinets and built-ins, the mistakes I see people make in them. I belong to you. We're gonna start here with this kitchen. Now, this isn't a mistake that the clients made, it's a mistake that the builder made. And like them, and maybe like you just have to live with it, or do you? Take a look at this kitchen. It's got maple cabinets, and look at that, about 12 to 14 inches away from the ceiling. Don't know why they do that. Even the valances in there drop that much, and it just, I mean, you got a 9-foot ceiling, but why? Because you're not even appreciating it, because everything is down here so that you don't get this feel, you get this feel. Here's how you do it on a budget. We actually ghost coated, I know you're gonna ask what that means, basically dark stain, or you could paint. This was in the espresso days. We ghost coated those cabinets the dark chocolate espresso. What did I do with that space above it? We actually painted that 14 inches of space above the cabinet in the espresso color. And that takes, when you're standing back here and you look there, you don't think in your mind, oh, those cabinets drop. You just think it's like, wow, that's beautiful. We added a few little tchotchkes on top, not too many, don't get crazy. And by the way, a mistake for them was that they did not have any hardware on those cabinets. Did you notice that? And now they do. Take me to your heart. Let's say your kitchen cabinets don't have the space between them. Let's say they go up and hit a soffit. I have a couple of projects I'm going to show you about this, things you can do. Now in this one, we actually added a wood fascia to the front of the soffit here because my clients they didn't know to be bothered by it. I was bothered by it. So I added that additional wood to the top. A lot of things in this kitchen changed, but I want you to know that the cabinets remain the same except for the island. Big difference. And without, replacing the entire kitchen. All right, here's another one, maple cabinets. This project's pretty old, it's probably like 20 years old, but it's a fun one. You'll see that they had the soffit issue, and that bothered me. It's good that there's not a space up there, there's like a dust catcher, but it's like a duh. I hear sounds, I hear a duh. So what I did was I had my cabinet guy that did all my crown molding and stuff come in and tape off because we kept the cabinet and then stained, and here's how it looked afterwards. Big difference, and yet those are not new cabinets. Oh, and I did on the right-hand side, you'll see I added 2 glass doors. Now, not new doors, kept the doors we had, cut out the wood that was in the center and replaced it with a pane of glass. And now we have a little bit of a china cabinet effect. Now this kitchen. This happens a lot in kitchens, but I promise you there's more things. This kitchen was really interesting. The clients didn't want to replace the cabinets. This was a trend like 12, 15 years ago, where everybody had these maple cabinets, kitchen cabinets. And what maple does, when it's a clear stain and it has that varnish over it, varnish yellows. So they went from being like a nice mellow yellow, neutral, natural shade of wood to this very, very golden, almost orangey shade with the varnish that had yellowed over time. So what we did was we ghost coated these and we stained them, but above the cabinets, since we didn't replace them, what I did was I bought art pieces and I set those on top to camouflage. Why did I do that instead of paint up there? Because in that first house you saw, the cabinets went edge to edge and there was a stopping point for that dark chocolate paint. Here, I'd have to paint the whole wall. So by putting these pieces of artwork up there, it did the same kind of an idea. And honestly, it was probably, of all the things we did, probably the cheapest one and really with a great effect. Here's a mistake. What if you have perfectly good cabinets and you want to redo your kitchen? I think it's a mistake not to at least consider some options that you could use some of the stuff you have. For example, in this kitchen, the clients wanted a new kitchen, and I said, you know, maybe we could make this look better. What they wanted was a place to hold their dishes, and they wanted a place to store their wine, and you know, like a buffet kind of thing for the eating area. What I did was kept the bottom cabinet, just had a custom top made for it. It made such a great buffet to this kitchen. It added like depth and quality to the kitchen without having to scrape the whole thing. Trust me, I'm not against scraping the whole thing and giving your designer a chance, or you get a chance to start from scratch, but you don't always have to. Sometimes if you do, I think it's a mistake. Here's another example in a family room. I love symmetry, and this was anything but. This was just like a hot mess of stuff going on. It used to have a big tube television on the left-hand side. That's why it was like that. So what did I do? I said, let's not scrap this whole thing and start all over again. Let's just match the one you have on the right with one just like it on the left. One thing I did do is I had my cabinet guy go in and add a thicker face to the front of those so that we could put LED strip lights up under there, because, you know, I like my lights. All right, so here is another mistake when it comes to cabinets. This is basically what happened here. It looks like they went to a place called Bombay Company, which is not in business anymore, but it was back in the 90s and early 2000s, I think. This looks like Bombay Company cherry wood. It should be expensive because this is a nice house. It's not expensive stuff, but they just went bam, 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 bam. 5 of these arched bookcases over and I'm sorry, that is annoying, don't you think? The other thing is, look at this. It was a 10-foot ceiling, and of course, what did they put in there? 8-foot cabinets. So when I got there, I did my thing, took those cabinets up to 10 feet to the ceiling. There's still a lot of accessories in there now, but they are manageable. All of the frames, she loves framed photos of the family. Every frame is the same frame so that it's repeated. And then a large piece of art in the middle. This is an 18-year-old project, so don't judge me too harshly. I think it's beautiful even now. It's very, very lovely. So there you have it. 3 more basic principles of design of mistakes that people made. I hope that you got some takeaways from this. I hope that you were able to identify what the problems were in these rooms and then see how we worked it out. So it's not just the mistake, it's the how do you fix it? Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like what you see. Leave me a comment. I love to hear from you and I often respond. And what's the other thing? Oh, follow me on Instagram, because that's where we have so much fun. All right, you guys, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. So here's what I did. I said, let's get rid, did you see that squirrel? No. Oh, well, I am ADD.